News with Gina.
The News with Gina Grad.
I just got hit up by Caitlyn Jenner's assistant. Says Caitlyn wants to talk about something we were talking about on stage.
This is uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's about the handshake.
Do you guys think, I don't know what it is, but do you think it is car-related or something else? Like, we host my charity event, or is it, do you want to go to the desert and do some donuts in a dune buggy?
Yeah, I hope it's dune buggy related.
Yeah, I'm saying car related.
Okay.
But like car related business or car related pleasure?
He might want to invest in a car, might be thinking about buying or selling one.
I say Pismo Beach weekend, bros.
Wait a minute. Do those Newman race cars have hope in them? Or?
You'd have to check on that, man. You have to check at the auction house.
All right.
I got your response, by
What
the
about
way.
Jane Mansfield's car?
That is hope-free.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So British Airways has canceled nearly 100% of its flights for September 9th and 10th amid a dispute with the British Airlines Pilots Association, that's BAPA, which scheduled a strike for early this week. BAPA announced on August 23rd that its pilots would be striking in September following a pay dispute with the airline, which they claimed would not accept any of a number of solutions that would have avoided this strike.
What do you think an average pilot makes who's flying that kind of
British
cross-country
Airways.
or cross the Atlantic
Yeah,
kind of
transit-
route?
I'm completely guessing. You think 250?
That sounds somewhere, I don't know, yeah, $1.75.
I was going to guess less
$2.50.
only because I have a pilot friend, not that level, but like he says the wages have come down, salaries, you know what I mean? So I'd go a little less, but hopefully
That's why they're
hopefully
striking.
at least six figures.
Yeah, well, the Pilots Union, they represent over 10,000 UK pilots across more than 20 companies, had accused the airline of profiting at the cost of pilot sacrifices that include pay cuts and reduced leave and closing the final salary pension scheme, quote unquote. Meanwhile, the cost of these canceled services is about $50 million per day.
Yeah, it's kind of tough if you need pilots and they go on strike. Like you
don't want the scabs.
Yeah, if you work at a tuna canning factory or something, then
you work it out.
You guys
Next man up.
Bring the scabs in. But yeah, the 777, that stuff, or the 787, I don't know what the next one is.
In fact, there was a post that said, if your flight is canceled, please stay home. Like, don't bother coming to
the airport.
Yeah, Heathrow. It's going to be a madhouse. So we may have a new leader in the clubhouse for combined age of a violent incident.
Ooh.
And I can't remember.
Weston, you're going to like this.
Yeah,
when
this is
old
good.
people fight, you know what I mean? And the combined age. I don't know where we're at. I mean we're like one's 55 or something.
Yeah, I think we've gone over 150.
Okay, yeah, it's usually Costco based. That's where a lot of the trouble starts. Unfortunately, this did end in the loss of some life. So Fox News reports that a 73-year-old Maryland woman has been arrested after police say she called 911 to report the murder of her 82-year-old neighbor. And I believe that is a combination of 155. Officers who responded to the Sunday morning call found the victim, Hua Cha Pak, suffering from upper body trauma in a garden in the back of the apartment
Are these
complex.
two women?
Yes.
Okay, so
I think so.
Okay, well, there is a powder puff division.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not trying to be sexist. I'm just trying to be
I
accurate.
get it.
If anything, it's equal.
This is
Equality.
the elderly powder puff
Yeah.
division. Well, you see the Olympics. They
No, I
don't
get
run
it.
the 100 meters
No.
with the men and the women. They
Right.
have separate divisions.
Right.
So they're the
This we
leader in the
consider-
clubhouse in the
heavyweight.
powder puff division.
Right, for powder
Right.
puffs. So homicide detectives said the woman was pronounced dead. Yes, the woman was pronounced dead at the scene, and that 73-year-old Chun Young-oh was charged with the murder.
Upper body trauma in
Yes.
the garden? She was troweled to death.
Now,
Yeah.
it's probably gardening related. Police say the preliminary investigation reveals O and the victim had been in a dispute prior to the murder. O struck the victim multiple times with a brick.
How would you
Jesus.
like? How would
They
you
should
like?
be having tea together. What is this?
Right.
This is terrible.
How would you like to live?
Well, I think that's out the window now, Weston.
How would you like to live in between this chick? Like, what if there's just three houses and you had the center house,
Yeah.
right? You had the Lindsey Graham guy. Oh no, wait.
Rand Paul?
Rand Paul neighbor guy broke a bunch of his ribs and stuff on one side, and this maniac bitch on the other side. Like, well, you just lived in between these two. I'd never leave the house.
Yeah.
I'd sell
walk out.
immediately.
I'd be like, I'd have the bottom cut out of a shark cage, and I'd just lift it up and walk out to my car, and drop it again, and look around
like
I'd
a pickle barrel.
Yeah.
Do they know exactly what the dispute was over?
We may never know now.
It's fascinating that it got to that level. I mean, that's
she's being held without bond, so I don't know if she's going to be talking anytime soon.
Brick.
Also, women, normally don't kill people. Mm-hmm. And they normally if they do, they get it out of their system, like in their teens. They don't usually wait till 70-something.
Yeah,
but
it gets resolved much faster.
Something that used to offend me that now, maybe he's onto something. Conway used to always talk about on the air, and we talk about it sometimes, that there is no
Tim Conway Jr.
Yes, sorry, there's no anger like the white hot anger of a middle-aged woman.
Yes.
And we've talked about that hormonally or whatever it is. Dudes mellow out, women get angrier. And, 73, maybe that's the apex.
Well, also, there's a thing which is, and I'll use Weston here. So Weston, he's a weapon. I mean, he's strong. He's winning grappling championships. He's been trained. You can't, what?
I was kidding. I said his fists are registered, and he said they are.
Are they registered?
Yeah, it actually got me into trouble in school because I got registered. I got registered pretty young, and I didn't know what. I was always worried that if I didn't really understand the logistics of that.
Right.
So I remember this kid punched me in the face, and I just didn't hit him back because I was so afraid that hitting someone would take me away from my parents or something like that. I didn't know what that meant.
Well, you have capabilities.
Yep.
Well, your dad. Huh. There was a documentary called Con Air.
Documentary.
And during the trial scene dedicated to the trial of Doc, he was sitting in there and they were explaining to him, the judge was because of his training, he was going to be punished extra because he was essentially a trained weapon of war. Yep. And these townies who he was getting into it with in the rainy parking lot didn't stand a chance because of his military training.
Right.
So you're trained, you're trained, and I was talking to Dr. Drew about this the other day. I was leaving my other shop at night. There was a sort of crazy homeless guy. It was kind of terrifying my daughter, and he was pushing up against me and stuff like that. And Drew was like, "Why didn't you hit him?" And I was like, I would have hurt him if I hit him. Yeah, I didn't want to hit him and have his head hit the concrete and blah, blah, blah.
On your property?
Whatever. Yeah, my property and everything else. Like, I knew I could hit him. He was addled, high on drugs, whatever. I wanted to make sure he was away from me, away from my daughter. But anyway, you wouldn't do that. I have this theory about women is women don't have that. They're like, I'm an old woman. I'll let it fly, man. Like, I'm not worried about hurting somebody because I don't have that training. I don't have that strength. Like women will kick you or punch you back or whatever because if a dude does that, it'll hurt you.
Yeah.
And I think
you're right about
that
triggered response of just the backhand. We're a little trigger happy.
If you step on a 50-year-old dude's foot, that guy will go, "Hey, you're on my foot." You do it to a woman, her hand will just go flying.
Reflexively.
Yes.
Yeah, for me, it's something about the rib cage, being tickled, and it's all elbow.
Elbow.
But it's involuntary. I don't mean to, but it elbows just go flying.
It's true, Weston. Check it out.
You go right for the most dangerous part of the body.
Right, exactly. Well, Cleveland Brown star Odell Beckham Jr. wore a very pricey wristwatch during his debut with his new team Sunday, and it may have accidentally landed him in a little hot water with the league. Beckham broke a league rule that prohibits players from wearing hard objects, according to the NFL Network. And the NFL will reportedly address it with him and with the Browns. It's unclear if he's going to face fines over this, but this isn't just any watch. This isn't just your Timex. Apparently, Beckham was flashing and I hope I'm saying this right, Richard Mille RM 1103 McLaren. This particular model priced up to $350,000. Unclear how much he paid for it, but that's how much the watch costs. And
he won full Reggie Roby, which is a deep cut.
Punter, black punter.
First black punter that I'm aware of.
One of the very few in the NFL.
One of the very few, maybe the first. I mean, to really play number of year for the Miami
he played
Dolphins.
For a long time.
Dead.
Oh, he is? I didn't know that.
Died pretty young. Reggie Roby, famously, do you remember this?
I just remember he had that really big leg swing and played for the Dolphins.
Played with a digital wristwatch.
why?
What?
he timed his hang time. Hang time used to be a big deal for punters. They don't really talk about it anymore.
There used to be a digital display on the screen.
Yeah,
they used to have the hang time.
Yeah, they got rid of hang time and the coffin corner. All the scary ones. And we're looking at a picture of him.
He's playing with the Pro Bowl.
Thank you, Max.
But he has a watch.
But he's got his watch there. He's got a digital watch. I think he used to. He played with a digital watch, and I think he would check his hang time with his digital watch. Now, they shouldn't let you play. You know what I hate? I hate when the baseball players are running around if they hit the home run and all the jewelry slopping
Heavy
over
chains.
their things. Like, it's kind of like, come on, dude. It's a game. He's wearing a black digital watch back when a digital watch was something or interesting. And I think, Max Pat, you'd have to look it up. I think he would check his hang time.
Yeah, it was to gauge his hang time.
Needlessly elaborate. It's something you'd very easily check on the sidelines.
I know. If I was his coach, I'd be like, hey, equipment manager guy who's
we have
doing
12
nothing.
guys standing doing nothing.
Yes, give him your watch.
You have one job, two
Okay.
jobs. Catch the ball, punt the ball.
I bet he's going to be more accurate than you, Reggie, because he can do it the second the ball leaves your foot, whereas you are going to be doing your job.
Yeah. Catching and punting.
That's right.
I could never do football. I remember there was a time when we were trying to figure out like the best sport for me in high school, and I knew it was wrestling, but I wanted to be open to other people's suggestions, so I tried doing some football practice, and I couldn't get past, just tackling someone and stopping at that time because I was so just infatuated with martial arts that the coach was like, this is an aggressive sport. You got to go at it. You're going to be very, very, you got to be, very impactful and just hit it hard. I'm like, okay. So I went at him and I did a double leg takedown and just started getting on top of the coach.
You turned the guy to a pretzel?
He's on the ground, now what?
Yeah, exactly. And then he was looking at me like, what's wrong with you? Like, what are you doing? It was like, it was
Being
not
aggressive.
meant for me.
That's great.
I couldn't do it. Something about the chess playing of wrestling was my go. That was it.
What school did you go to?
Beverly High.
Oh, they got the swim gym.
It's an
there.
Olympic
Got
thing.
exactly the swim gym, and it was amazing because our coach was Frank Trigg.
Oh,
So
he was a famous guy.
Yeah,
right?
from UFC. So we had a small group of guys, and a lot of these people had this ridiculous, misconception about us that we're all, brats and rich kids and stuff like that, and that we couldn't wrestle and
I mean,
everything.
that was true.
But also,
For
But
some
also,
of them.
kick
For
your
some
ass.
of them. I mean, yeah, it was amazing because we came from so much, wisdom and technique. Having trained with Frank Trigg, and it was amazing. And there's some schools like North Torrance where it's like literally the forces of darkness in Star Wars. It's like this like legion where they're all like, I've never seen a wrestling team like that.
In North Torrance?
Yeah, it was crazy.
People outside the area, that's kind of neither here nor there. It's just
I remember a match when
suburb.
a guy from North Torrance was wrestling against one of our teammates, and while the opponent of our teammate from North Torrance was pinning one of our guys, like everyone from North Torrance made this like hand signal, like it was like some strange like.
oh my God.
they were
like,
coached up.
It's like
Yeah.
a cult almost. It was crazy. I mean, they were amazing.
Were they really good?
Oh, they were exceptional. I remember just when I had quit wrestling to really put more time into my arts, I beat the guy that took state shortly after I quit, and he was a North Torrance heavyweight.
Wow.
And he was amazing. And
What did you were heavyweight?
Heavyweight,
What weight did you wrestle at?
it was interesting. So so since you have anything above 215 is unlimited,
Right.
I was like 220 and 216. I couldn't cut that weight. I guess it was for my legs or something like that, or some. So
You couldn't get if you can cut it to 215, you can fight guys that are 215
You
or
can fight
maybe less.
215 and 200,
But
yeah.
if you do 216, you got to fight guys that are 300 or whatever.
Exactly, because
Unlimited.
it's for everyone else under 215, under light heavy, it's 10-pound weight allowance usually,
Mm-hmm.
and then what they do for light heavy is they'll give you a 15, and
Mm-hmm.
then after that 215, even if it's 215.5, they're really strict. You're going up against guys that are, and that was my register. I would go up against guys that were doing things in high school that you hear about in the Olympics, guys benching 400 pounds and ridiculous stuff like that.
Would your dad go to these events? And if he did, would he like draw a crowd or like would he cheer? Like I it feels weird. It's sort of like LeBron James. Like his kid goes playing basketball and he's dunking the ball in the corner and stuff.
Well,
like,
what happens when you go to Sonny's basketball games? I imagine the same situation.
I've never been. Send them, Danny.
Yeah, he would attend. He would get very excited. You know,
And we'd start yelling and stuff?
Oh yeah!
Wow.
Yeah, it was a great bonding experience. You know, it was awesome. I remember one time this kid broke his arm in one of these wrestling matches, and my dad, being the benevolent man he is, he just walked up and he's like, "If you need any help, you can give me a call." And he gave his
You're
number.
doing
and
incredible
Yeah.
Nick Cage, man.
How do you do that?
It's been around him a lot.
It's spot on.
It was so beautiful, but the guy was in shock because he just broken his bone. And
Right.
after that, Nicolas Cage walks up and he's like, do you need help? I'll be here for you. And he's just like in this state of like pain, catatonia, and then also like rapture at the same time.
The next day, he's like, I think I broke my arm and I had a stroke because I swear to God, Nick Cage was talking to me.
Fucking Face Off gave me his card.
You know what's funny about human nature? You know that guy's telling that story, and at least one time when he told it, somebody went, "Yeah, I fell off my Schwinn once, and Patrick Swayze came up to me." Like, he tried
Someone's
to
got to
one-up him.
contribute, yeah.
That's right. All right, hey, Reggie Roby dead, right? Like
Yeah.
53 or something? Like a super.
Remember that.
Is it he died young, I just remember. Played all those years. All right, Gina, sorry.
Well, this is definitely something we're going to want to get Dr. Drew on the horn for. Homeless conditions are so dire. Diseases associated with the Middle Ages soon reemerging. We've talked about this.
Died at 43?
Wow.
Damn.
Jesus, Reggie. I mean, the guy was in the league.
He must
for
have been in
so
the league
long.
for 5 years.
I know. Sorry, go ahead.
So Dr. Mark Siegel of NYU warns that infections thought to be stamped out by modern medicine could make a comeback. This is something Dr. Drew's talked about. However, I personally haven't heard Dr. Drew bring up this one. About 95% of the U.S. population was thought to be naturally immune to leprosy. But
boy.
Siegel
One way to
argues
find
that
out.
such diseases are reemerging in some parts of America, including LA County, that we haven't commonly seen since the Middle Ages. And we talked about typhus, of course, and they're talking about leprosy specifically. The disease is both treatable with antibiotics, can cause irreversible disabilities, blindness, skin lesions, turn deadly if not diagnosed or handled properly. Siegel warns that in LA County, as 75% of the city's 60,000 homeless people lack temporary shelter, hygiene, medical treatment. These are all a perfect cauldron for a contagious disease.
Well, you got to work at it, everybody. We do this thing where it's like you think you can put society on autopilot and it's just going to roll on ahead and we're all going to be flying in hovercrafts. And
Right.
no, you got to work at society like you got to work at yourself. You have to get up every day, like you have to exercise. You have to paint the fascia around your house every 3 years. You got to pull the weeds. Like, it's a constant.
Upkeep.
Nature is just sort of coming at you
Yeah.
all the time, and it's like it's a constant little battle. It's like a little upkeep battle. And the second you go, let it slide for 2 years, it slides hard, it slides fast, and all this nature starts coming back to roost, and that's where we're at. And it's obviously it's insane. We simultaneously talk about like those kids in cages at the border. What about them? What are they going to? Those kids are in much better shape than all the people that are in your city living on the goddamn street. You may not like it, but they're in much better shape. They're being looked after, cared for. There's physicians. There's a roof over their head. This is total chaos here, and the same hypocritical people that are running this goddamn city into the ground who are the most vocal about like what's going on that border. You have humans flopping all over your city, and now there's biblical style disease coming in. What the hell?
Yeah, I think I heard on the way here on KFI they were talking about there's going to be 10 medical vans dispersed around downtown LA to help with mental illness. But so far we haven't talked about, the med tents that you've been referring to for actual physical medical care.
Well, here's the problem with everything. If you are making decisions on a sort of popularity contest, or not a popularity contest, what I mean is like whatever problem you'd like to fix, a group of people are not going to be happy with the action, So you go, we need to take these people, we need to scrape them off the sidewalk, and then the ACLU goes, hey, that guy's got a right to his belongings. Good. They're going to be. There's no version where somebody isn't upset. But part of being a politician and part of a community is action anyway.
Right.
Not
In
the
face
popularity
of,
contest
being
part.
popular. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, if unreasonable people have a problem with you, I think there's way too many people that are like, I don't know. It's like being a parent. Like your 9-year-old's going to think you're unfair and a bad person and a bully. You're going to have to be cool with that and move forward.
Yeah.
Because they need to go to the dentist, and that's what good parenting does. You know what I mean? Like there's good governing, there's good parenting. It's not a popularity contest. At some point, you got to put your foot down, and we don't do that around here. It's all about good vibes.
And hope.
And hope. And it just
Come standard, Gina.
it just keeps going.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know where you live, Weston. You in town?
Yeah, I'm in town. I'm in Encino area.
So the Valley,
Yeah.
which traditionally didn't, as I've said, traditionally didn't have a lot of homeless, and now as I
check the Laurel Canyon and Coldwater underpasses.
I just went on the Laurel. If you go into the Comedy Store from where I'm at, and you go at night, it'll tell you just take the 101 and get off on Laurel and hang a left. And you hang a left, and there's a pile of people under there. And with, I don't know, Campbell Hall or one of the most expensive private schools on the next block.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if those kids are walking to Gelson's or not during their lunch break, but you don't want to walk through that pile.
It's tragic seeing some of the individuals on the street, just the belligerence and the disconnect from reality and where mental illness can take them. And also the physical. I mean, I think it's all interconnected, physical and mental. And I wish that, spirit wouldn't be so excluded as it is in the modern world. I mean, it's. I think that there needs to be a more all-encompassing approach to health, an alternative and holistic way.
It'd be nice if they just preached, just got into. I mean, we're getting to the point where I think 200 years ago we didn't have to teach kids sort of, I don't know, mental fitness because you're just chopping wood and walking through the snow and in nature and sort of trying to stay a couple steps ahead of the elements, like how much meat could you salt away for the winter. You're constantly preoccupied with physically living, like survival. You're just survival. If you're going to live somewhere, you have to build it yourself. Chop those trees down, strip the logs, make the lumber. When you're doing that all day, every day, that is the mental. That is your satisfaction mentally. Right. If you're going to sit in front of a TV screen or stare at a phone and read things about yourself all day, we're going to have to start talking about spirituality now because you're going to start eating. Your brain's going to start eating itself, and then we're going to just do nothing but energy drinks and God knows what else. It's going to just be ubiquitous, just everywhere all the time. We're going to have to start teaching kids like meditation and forms of exercise and Tai Chi and stuff like that. I mean, we're going to have to start. This is going to have to be part of the curriculum because you're going to need this, or you're going to start going crazy
because we're being taken away from our roots slowly. I mean, I think that a lot of greatness is gonna come of what we have now, but it's crucial to start implementing more of that because back in those days when we were living more of a bucolic lifestyle, we were more connected with certain things that bring you closer to that energy that we're all part of, and it's
now there's just sedative everywhere you go.
Yeah, sedative and so many distractions. I mean, I know that I for 25 years of my life, or actually no, to be exact, 20 years of my life, I struggled with probably one of the most severe cases of OCD. I mean, I had a really bad situation with that it came with a bunch of trauma and stuff like that, and took me into a path of addiction, and I was trying to find transcendence in the addiction, but it only takes you to oblivion for people that don't know how to drink respectfully and know how to that don't have the allergy. But it's just
what was your weapon of choice? Booze?
Yes, alcohol, indeed.
And you've been sober for a while?
Quite a while, and now I'm at the point to where I don't have any temptation, and I can enjoy the idea of being a part of. I think that winemaking is an incredible thing. The family's been doing it for a long time.
You would an empire.
I mean, I think that's amazing, and I think that people who enjoy alcohol, it's an incredible thing for them. I think that it's a great way to relax for individuals that can handle it. I mean, my wife is this incredible innovator, and she is always creating these. She's a true woman of greatness, and she was able to to see me through all of these traumas that I had to release. And, she's doing this amazing thing called Bar Week, which is like Dine LA, but people get to go to bars that
What a great idea. Is this new?
It's new. It'll be launched in 2020.
What a fantastic
Sweet.
idea.
So like this is like a great like thing for people to go enjoy themselves and to like experience like discounted prices for
Brian,
drinks.
put this on your
I
calendar.
was gonna say Bar
more,
Week.
more of an experience that way. So it's amazing that addiction can't take me back to those old habits of mine to where I would if I let addiction win, I wouldn't be able to live because literally there's Coppola wine everywhere. That's my last name. But yeah, it was an amazing journey, and I mean it brought me to places that I had never imagined. There was a time when I was depressed and in a disconnect for a year. It was an eclipse of my whole soul. And
I feel like I've been kind of a broken record, if that even means anything anymore. But I think people are going to have to be working overtime for their own sanity, on their own sanity now. When I used to just be poor and work construction, it's like you just got up, went to work. Like you just get up and go to work. Just get up and go to work. Now,
No time to reflect on how you're feeling.
Yeah, now there's a lot more downtime, and downtime. It's funny. You take a look at. You just take a sport. You take professional baseball, professional football. You take a look at the bench of baseball, and guys are there, and they got a lot of weird superstitions about stuff, seeds, and they're chewing like they dip. They're dipping tobacco, they're chewing on seeds.
They don't step on the foul line.
Yeah, they're in there doing crazy stuff. Football, they're like sucking off an oxygen mask. The defensive coordinator's like showing them something that they drew up. Everyone's looking at it, and then they're running back up there. You leave them alone. These are all right. They're both great athletes. Fine. One group gets too much time to sit there, like literally too much time. You start to do weird idiosyncratic things. There's tobacco, like they start dipping like during the game, because there's downtime, and even within a 3-hour baseball game, there's too much downtime, and even sane athletes start kind of going at themselves a little bit. Yep. You take a look at the NBA, there's none of that, or the NFL, like there's none of that.
No time?
There's no downtime. It's a little microcosm, but if your life has a lot of downtime, you're going to start chewing and picking and doing idiosyncratic things. If you're just trying to get some oxygen and looking at a schematic and running back out into the game of life, you don't start picking at yourself.
Yeah.
You have to stay
That
engaged.
much.
Absolutely.
Engaged.
Yeah.
That's right.
Speaking of that, here's something I've never thought of before. Do they still make Big League Chew? Is that allowed?
Oh, hell yes.
That's bubble gum that's supposed to be dip for children.
Yeah.
Comes in a pouch.
That's still. Do kids know that that's supposed to be dip?
It's
My
definitely
wife
still
and I
around.
saw it recently. My wife and I went to Kernville by the river to do some whitewater rafting, and we saw by one of those little general stores. They had a bunch of Big League Chew.
Look, it's sweet, and I want some, but I just didn't know if it was allowed anymore.
No, it's
sure.
fine. It's next to the candy cigarette.
Right,
right.
exactly.
Yeah.
All right, let's do one more, Gina Grant.
All right, well, here's kind of a weird one, maybe a little bit of a feel-good accountability story. It's never too late to make amends. Fox News reports that a bar in Lincoln, Nebraska recently received an envelope that contained $500 and a letter from an anonymous source apologizing for breaking their sign. The bar was confused because the sign wasn't broken, but the letter was apparently referencing an event that happened 45 years ago. Zoo Bar in Lincoln, Nebraska has been open for 46 years. They reportedly received an envelope with cash inside and a note that read, 45 years ago, I broke the Zoo Bar sign. Here's my restitution. The envelope apparently had no return address on it. The owner of the bar, who's been there for 18 years, thought it was a little weird, but at this point, he's going to use the money for the bar, and he said that the person who was in charge of the bar 45 years ago has since passed away, but he thinks he would have appreciated it.
Yeah.
It's a 9-step situation.
That's exactly what I was
Making
thinking.
amends for some drunken escapade.
Might as well.
Absolutely. It's imperative because the things that we feel are against our moral code, that your mind will keep bringing you back to that place until you are able to release it. Yeah, you have to, or it'll keep bringing you there.
Yeah, it'd be nice if everyone just had a little sort of internal metronome and metronome's not quite the right descriptive, but what I'm saying is like once in a while, I'll take my 110-pound lab out, and he'll take 2 dumps. And I'm like, are you literally shitting me? You're taking 2 dumps. And I bring a bag, but he takes a second dump somewhere. And then sometimes it's at night, and then I go home, and then I'm like, okay, I got to remember where this dog took the second dump, and I got to go fix it because it's like it's not right.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be this way. It's not this person's. It was on somebody's lawn, and it's not their responsibility, and whatever. And I'll literally make a note on a notepad. Like tomorrow morning, you got to go by. You got to on your way out. You got to get that. Like it bothers me, and then I realize if we had a little more of that. I don't mean be more like me. I mean be bothered when you do things. Then we don't need cops and we don't need signs posted about no dumping or loitering or we don't have to know anything. Everyone just be in charge. We're living in a goddamn utopia because everyone is being policed by themselves. Because not because nobody saw me. It's the wrong thing to do, and I wouldn't want it on my lawn. And everyone just start working that into your wiring. You'll be happier. Now, it seems weird. Like, why are you happier going and getting your dog's second dump the following day? I'm happier because I'm not a bad person. I'm a good person, and I get to live with that person who has that integrity or whatever you'd want to call it. Just be a little more into that. For all of you who are, calling lawyers and faking injuries and suing everybody.
Getting one over on somebody.
What is all your shit worth? What's your spirit worth? What's your integrity worth? What is it worth? They go, yeah, well, you can get $30,000 from that guy or $300,000 or you better. Okay. But what about your soul?
Yeah.
Well, what about you? What are we saying about you? Who's got to live with you?
Yeah.
Your husband or your wife does, but you really got to live with you. Is that what you want?
Speaking of which, did I ever tell the story on this podcast about Christy and I went out, my wife and I went out for dinner, trendy place, fun place, got a little tipsy, took an Uber home, realized the next morning as I'm going through my pockets and putting my pants away, I'm like, I look at the receipt, I'm like, we shorted the server by, we stiffed her a significant amount. Like I was drunk, I miscalculated, and I tipped her
the tip.
Yeah, on the tip. I tipped her like $50 when it should have been $100 or whatever it was. And so
Brian's trying to party.
Well, whatever it was. It could have been 20 when it should have been 50. I don't remember what it was. But we went back, as soon as we realized, we went back the next morning and dropped off an envelope for her. We were like, oh my God, we're assholes. That woman put up with us, and then we stiffed her.
Well, I think you have said this, but it bears repeating, which is
it was a while ago.
You don't want her to think of you as that way, and you don't want you to think of you as that way.
Because I would always have been thinking about it.
In my case, there was no waitress because my dog took a dump under the veil of darkness and scooted away like a thief in the night. But I had to live with it, and I don't want to live with that
don't
person.
want to live with it.
Yeah, so everybody, do a better job with your goddamn kids. Start doing that, and then we'll have a little less frivolous lawsuits and people punching people on public forms of transportation and trying to get everything. And politicians, stop preaching everything's going to be free when you're in charge. That's causing more of this. Stop. Let's get a little more in the personal responsibility department and a little less, I'm going to take care of your bills.
Sounds good.
It's almost like people have detached from rightness. Like, for example, my wife and I were doing some shopping. We went to the 99-cent store, and we enter through the door, and there's this old lady that had hit her head on the ground. She slipped.
Oh.
This was yesterday. I can't believe it. So she hit her head, and literally everybody in the 99-cent store that was working there, all the clerks and everything like that, all you could see in their face, all they cared about was how they were going to be liable. They weren't even giving her water. They weren't giving her anything to rest her head on. So I immediately ran and I said, do you know your name? And I was very, very grateful to hear. She's like, of course I know my name. It's Nancy. I was like, okay, good. You have your personality with you. And then someone got her my wife got her something to put her head on and some water. And then we called the paramedics to get there. But it was like everybody around there just didn't want to engage. And I feel like that's a perfect example of what's occurring now in this world is people are just worried about the trivialities of life. And
they're lazy and they're scared, and those are two horrible ways to be.
Horrible.
And also, be very careful about the government and the politicians taking care of you. You know, think more about the community, like your family and your community, because the politicians don't do a great job. All right, let's bring it home, baby girl.
You got it. I'm Gina Grad, and that's the news.
I'm a woman, but I'm all man.
Gina Grad. That was the news with Gina Grad.